I'm super excited, really excited to have Victoria Bravery today with us.
Hello.
And I met Victoria during Global Women Forum in Pristina in Kosovo. And I was instantly impressed by her personality, very modest, but at the same time, you could see there's a lot of experience behind. So we started talking, and I discovered a very interesting story behind, which I decided to share with you. So whoever is listening to us, welcome. Hi, Sarah. If you have any questions, don't forget that you can ask because I can see your comments. And let's go. So, Victoria, I will ask you first to briefly introduce yourself. Where are you from? Where do you live? And what kind of business do you do?
Thank you, Anna. Thank you for inviting me on. And hello to your fearless female founders. You're all women after my own heart. My name's Victoria Bravery. I live in London. I've got a business in London, which is Workspaces for small businesses, entrepreneurs and freelancers, with a focus on providing affordable space and creating places that people can thrive. So really focusing on getting to know them and figuring out how we can serve them.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell us how everything was starting from you? Like, we know that co-working spaces are booming at the moment. It's a booming business, and a lot of people are starting co-working spaces. So tell us a little bit more when you were starting, how you were starting.
Sure. So we started in 2012. We were one of the first co-working spaces in London. Sorry, I'm just shifting in my chair to get comfortable to tell the story. So I found out about the concept of shared workspaces by learning about a place in Canada called the Centre for Social Innovation. And they talked about how creating an environment where people feel productive, but also comfortable enough to form bonds with each other can lead to greater growth individually, but also as a group. And the emergence of impactful projects. And I think I must have manifested the building because I became so, I think obsessed is the only word, about creating this, that my partner, who at the time he was running an events company, he was doing events in London and they lost their space where they were doing them. And he started looking for a new one. And he found this enormous building. It's 14,000 square feet, which for metric Europeans is 1,300 square meters.
I can't even imagine like how big is the space. It's like 3 airports, maybe.
Not that big. No, it's not that big. So anyway, he found this great big building around the corner from where we were living, which was on an industrial estate. We moved there because we were t-shirt printing as well. I had a screen printing studio. And this great big derelict building it was empty, it was falling down, and the ground floor was perfect for what he needed it for, which was for throwing events. And then the top 2 floors, he was like, do you want to set up the co-working space? And I was like, yes, I do. So it was a year basically of us doing all types of building work, painting, scavenging for materials. It was 7 days a week, 17, 18 hours a day, just like non-stop basically. I got really physically strong from doing it because I was carrying equipment and materials up 3 flights of stairs, like great big flights of stairs. But at the same time, going out to places where I thought people that could benefit from this space when it was finished would be in connecting with them so that we could start generating revenue as soon as it was ready to open.
Yeah. Can I ask you 2 questions actually before we go further? So you said that you had a t-shirt printing business before. Yeah. So I'm curious to know if you've always been in entrepreneurship or you had a corporate job somewhere in the beginning of your career, how it was all starting for you.
So my first business was at the age of 3 with my sister.
Oh, that's nice.
we got in so much trouble from our parents because we went and picked the petals from the flowers of our neighbors' gardens and put them in jars of water and then tried to sell the jars of petal water back to the neighbors as perfume. So yeah, we got in a lot of trouble for doing
very
that.
entrepreneurial. But do you think
Yeah.
I would never imagine to do something like this in my Soviet childhood? You know, I wouldn't even have an idea of that. Do you think it comes from parents, from how you were growing?
I don't know actually. I think probably my sister was the motivator in that one. She's 5 years older than me, and she loves money, so she wanted a little helper to help her earn some money, and chose her 3-year-old sister. My parents are not entrepreneurial. They don't understand what I do at all. They don't. They're medical professionals, a doctor and a nurse. I come from 3 generations of medical professionals, and actually both of my sisters are also medical professionals. So I'm the black sheep of the family.
It's actually a really good hope that you're giving here to other people, because, you know, I always have this sort of excuse that I grew up in a family where no one was an entrepreneur. Actually, I grew up in the country where entrepreneurship didn't exist, you know, it was Soviet Union. So for me, it's always like, okay, how do you earn money as an entrepreneur? Because no one ever taught you about that. But you're telling the story where your parents were also, you know, also is not the wrong word. Your parents were not entrepreneurs. They were not business people. Mm-hmm. No. So it's inspiring.
Yeah, and their message was always to go to school, get education, go and find a job that then you can work in forever.
Yeah.
I always thought in my head, I don't want to do that, but I didn't know what other options there were.
Yeah. And in adulthood, like, what did you study?
I studied at university French and International Relations. So my mother's hoped for me that I would be a diplomat. I wanted to study Egyptology, actually, just because I was interested in it. And then
we are very similar in that sense, because when I was a kid, I wanted to be Egyptologist as well. And
then really?
And then I graduated from International Relations, which was
crazy. Yeah, maybe that's why we had such a connection.
Exactly. Yeah, maybe.
Inside, we're wired similar.
Yeah, but you went into entrepreneurial scene definitely much faster than I did. So
maybe not. Well, apart from that first childhood experience, but I've been I worked in the film industry for quite a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I was a cook for like big Hollywood movies, and I enjoyed it. But yeah, cooking food for celebrity actors, and then. What I really wanted to do though was special effects, like the real special effects. So every film I worked on, I would find the special effects department and look after them really well, but also hassle them. Say the next one I'll work for free. I just want to learn how to build bullet squibs and explosions and do the effects of the movies. And then one movie we finished. We wrapped, and the guy that owned the special effects company called me up and said, I've just got another film. Do you want to come and do the special effects? Learn how to do that. I was like, yeah.
That's what happens when you have intentions. Yeah. Like everything manifests the way you want. But it's interesting. How different your fate was developing. You know, from 3 years old, selling perfume with petals, going into movie industry and special effects, and then ending up in co-working spaces, which is also a good message, you know, because usually we are so scared to change our specialization, let's say, our expertise, because we believe that people will not trust us. But, you know, the experience shows that that's not the case. So
all that we're worried what people will think if we change what we're doing, because there's a lot of mindset that people think that you're one thing and that's what you have to do forever. But I think it's more about finding a way of fulfilling yourself, even if that means doing different things.
Mm-hmm. And here comes the second question then, that you started telling that you have found this huge space. And you started working on it. And from what I remember, you told me that you didn't have much of financial means even to buy something proper. So that's why you got lucky actually with this building, and you started literally from nothing. Can you tell more a little bit about it?
Yes. So we managed to negotiate a rent-free period because the building was in such a terrible state. So we said, look, we won't pay any rent for, I think it was 3 months, and then we'll start paying after that. And during that time, it was a scramble to get something finished enough so that we could then rent it out. But the paint that we got to paint everywhere inside was from a recycling place where people take the paint they don't want. So it was basically everything got painted with whatever was available. All of the furniture that we had initially, I didn't pay for any of it. I was online calling people up when I saw that there was an advert for people moving offices or clearing out offices. I'd go with our van and collect it. We had to change all of the windows because they were very thin, old style ones that weren't insulated. I found a council development that had gone bankrupt, and they had exactly the number of windows that we needed, that were around, not all of them the right size, but some of them the right size. But it was a 3-hour drive away. So I went in the van to pick them up. They all didn't fit. So I drove back to London, emptied the van, and then drove back 3 hours to pick up the rest of the windows.
Wow.
Ones that didn't fit, that were too big, we cut bigger holes in the wall. So to make the window frames bigger, I was literally doing anything we could to make what we had work. At the same time, on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights, I was going to work on like the cashier and the guest list of events just to earn some extra money. We were also, once the building got a little bit more kind of secure, but nowhere near finished, we were throwing events like raves inside parts of the building to generate more income as well. Any bin or skip that I went past, I looked inside and see if there was something there that we could work with. Actually, my 4-year-old son recently said, as we walked past down the street, and I saw something that we could use, I still like got this habit, I think. He said, Mummy, why do you and Papa always look in the bins?
Maybe there's something useful in there.
People throw things away that they don't want, but other people find useful. So. And then actually the next weekend he found a fire truck, toy fire truck in a bin that someone had thrown away because it had broken the front off. And I was like, hey, Arthur, it's broken. And he was like, but we could just mend it and put it back together. And I was like, oh.
It's amazing recycling, right?
Mm. Yeah.
Okay, that's amazing. Yeah. And so I thought actually that you bought the building, but you leased it. You leased it first, yeah. So you leased it, you repaired it, you negotiated rent-free first 3 months, and then you started to generate income by throwing parties. And how did that work? Did you just announce it on Facebook?
Well, my partner was already doing events. Oh, yeah. So it started with that. They had a lot of contacts for other people that also wanted to rent space to throw parties as well. So we'd get a temporary license. In the UK, you can have a license. It's for 48 hours. And we'd rent out during the nighttime to somebody else. And then the next day, my partner would throw his event, which was a daytime event. So it was like getting as much possible rental space time out of the license that we had. Otherwise, in the UK, you're not allowed to serve alcohol or sell alcohol. Okay. So it was basically having lots of contacts and talking to people.
And once you started generating revenue from those parties, how did you move on with development of the business? So
every event that we would do would allow us about a week worth of building. We had to get some specialists in for stuff that we couldn't do, like the electrics, plastering the walls. We needed to get somebody proper to do it because I tried and didn't do a very good job. And then what we did was we would be talking about the project to anybody that we met, and people started asking us about music studios. So we decided to build some music studios. But before doing that, I was putting out ads and going to events and inviting people to come and visit their space and saying, look, choose the space that will make a music studio for you, and put a deposit down now. So basically all of our music studios were rented before we'd even started building them.
It's incredible.
And it changed our business model a little bit as well. So I was initially going to do 2 floors of co-working space, but then actually by listening to people, I found out that actually people wanted something else as well.
It's actually a very interesting part. Can we maybe pause on it a little bit? So this is called customer-based approach. When you first understand what the customer needs, and then you develop the business. So basically, it's that famous thing that everyone is talking about, that you need to know your audience. But tell me a little bit more how you were learning about it, going to networking events or connecting to people in this business. How did it work?
Yeah, both actually. So when the co-working space was ready enough, that's a really important part, ready enough. Nothing's ever going to be perfect, so just get going. I put out on Facebook, we've just opened a co-working space, and for the next month, it's free. So anybody can come, have a desk and work for nothing. But can you please share on your own Facebook about our co-working space? So we did that. And I also, I was going to an event every single day that was relevant to entrepreneurs, creative freelancers, and just first of all, learning what was at the event. So it was always something with a talk or a workshop, because I wanted to up my own skills and knowledge so that then I would be able to help the people coming to my space more. But also to connect with people in an environment that it was relevant, that we could talk authentically about what was happening at the event. And then, when it comes around to what do you do, I'd say I've just opened a co-working space.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of events were they again?
So we've got an organization in London called General Assembly, who they used to do all types of knowledge-based events, like how to recruit, how to generate more leads, how to do web development, how to gamify your customer experience. And they always had really cheap discounts if you booked last minute. So it'd be like either come for free or for like 10 euros or something. So all of those I went to. I'd go to free talks at the Apple store. They used to do, I don't know if they still do it, but like panel discussions at the Apple store. I would reach out to organizations and invite them to use our space to host their own events and workshops as well. Mm-hmm. At that time, 7 years ago, there weren't many co-working space, but there used to be groups of people called co-working jellies. And there were groups of freelancers that would get together once or more a week to have like a study group. Mm-hmm. And I reached out to every single one of them in London and invited them to come and have their study jelly, their co-working jelly in our space for nothing. And they'd come and on the same day every week, and I'd basically talk to them and listen to them and provide really nice snacks and stuff for them. We also, so it was a time as well when, I think the year after actually, when Game of Thrones had just started to become quite popular in the first season or two. So me and a couple of the other residents of our co-working space would organize themed social events. So we'd have Game of Thrones quiz, or one of our residents was a sommelier, so we do wine tasting, always a Christmas thing, and we do shared meals as well, invite people to bring something like a potluck. Mm-hmm.
So literally, yeah, you were creating a lot of events, and a lot of them are for free or quite affordable. to kind of raise awareness of people on that. And then
Yeah.
you were collecting feedback from them to understand what is that they
Yes.
really need. And it turned out that what was needed is musical studios. Yeah, you said.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what was the first feeling though, because someone comes to you and tells, okay, we're interested in musical studios, and this is probably the first time you hear about musical studio. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what was the feeling? How you approached this business opportunity and what you did with it?
Yeah, actually, it was. If we hadn't been so certain and got the deposits from people to help us build them, we wouldn't have done it, because music studios are very expensive to build. You have to essentially, for each office, for each space, build two. Like there's a room within another room that helps with the sound. So it costs us about 3 or 4 times as much to build. But then they are rented for more as well. It just means that the return on the build investment takes a bit longer to recover. But it ended up being one of our USPs. Yeah. So having offices, co-working and music studios all in the same location is something that people come to us specifically for, because they want to be near a variety of people doing different things. And usually music studios are in a dedicated space that's only music studios. So yeah, people were coming and staying because there were musicians downstairs. So we're like, okay, let's do this in our next building as well, and the next one.
That's like it's a very niche niche. I wanted to say. Yeah. So I can imagine, yeah, having such a unique value proposition can channel better the right clients to you. Yeah. I just wanted to take a minute now and ask if anyone has questions to ask to Victoria. Ladies, don't be shy. If you have any questions, just write them. I will see them. And we will continue then to scaling your business. And I know this is one of your expertise.
I think I'm not sure about expertise, but it's definitely a necessity and something I'm just curious, continual learning about. But yeah,
you told me that you had to learn a lot from your experience. Of course, you were learning yourself. You were building the business from scratch. You were one of the first actually in London to start building those co-working spaces, which is incredible, I think. So what are the lessons you can share with our ladies so we could learn from you about scaling the business?
For anybody that's just starting out, I would say write down anything and everything that you do so that later on when you are going to grow your team and hire people, the how-tos are already there. So I didn't write down anything on how to run my business. And it was 2.5 years later when I actually had to, because I had a new team member join because I was going off to have a baby. So 2 weeks before my baby was born, and I was like, okay, basically I've got no manual on how to run this building every day, and I had to think really hard about what needs to be done every day, because when you do something yourself every day, it's automatic. Yeah. And I had to really think about, okay, what needs to be done? How can I write this down in a way that somebody else can do it to the standard that I want it to be done, that they will understand it, because not everybody thinks the same either. Yeah. So yeah, step one is make sure you've documented all of your procedures as they come up, and I was like, I'll just do it later. It's cool. I'll have a day and I'll do everything. And it's just impossible. So it took a really long time. We're still not there 7 years later, and we still don't have full procedures down.
Operations, I think, is one of the most difficult things in business. Well, in the corporates as well. This is one of the most, communications and operations are probably the two most challenging things in business. Before you move to the second one, I have a question from Dit. Or Dita, I'm sorry if I misspell your name. And I think also we met Dita at Global Women.
We did.
Recognize the face. Yeah. So she's asking, can you explain the business model again in short terms?
Yes. Hi, Dita. So business model in short terms is you lease or buy a commercial space and then separate it into rentable smaller spaces. So it could be co-working, which is you rent a desk, offices. In my space, we've also got music studios. And then you basically our long-term money comes in, our long-term revenue comes from renting the offices and the music studios on 1-year contracts. And then the desks were a bit more flexible. They go 3 months and then rolling month by month. One of the really important things I didn't mention actually about having a sustainable workspace that grows is, and having one that people talk about and tell their friends about, is really being selective to a point about who you invite to come and join our space, join the space. So we make sure that everybody understands what is expected in a co-working space. So it's a productive space. It's a space where we encourage knowledge sharing. Everybody's on a journey, and maybe you're on a journey that's a bit further ahead. So be open to asking and answering questions. And if anybody is being a nuisance or disturbing any of those 3 things, the productivity, the knowledge sharing, and being just excellent to each other, then asking them to leave. We also don't have certain types of business in our spaces because it changes the dynamics and changes the vibe as well. So there's no like sales teams from companies. There's no, in the co-working space, teams bigger than 3 people, because more than 3 people from the same cluster or group don't want to interact with anybody. And people go to co-working spaces and shared workspaces, because it's more cost effective than having their own office, but mostly because they want to connect with people. So you need to make an environment that really supports that.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if you motivate people somehow to interact, and talking about introverts like me, for example. I would come into a co-working space, sit in my corner.
That's fine. Yeah, that's totally cool. And you'd probably get, when you went to go make a cup of tea, like me or the site community manager, asking how you're getting on with your work and if you need anything. And, depending on your answer, they'll either leave you alone to get on with your work or say, oh, have you met this person who can help you with this?
Yeah, that's really amazing. The power of networking is actually magic. The more people you know, the more you talk to people about what you do, the more chances you have to manifest what you want to achieve in life. So I totally agree, and I should probably go to co-working spaces myself more often. Did I hope we answered your question? If we haven't, let us know, and we will move on to learnings. So you mentioned one learning, and we can talk about the second one now.
Remind me again.
So we were talking about the main challenges and learnings you had while building and scaling your business. And the first one was about not writing down the procedures.
Yeah. Second one, make sure you know your numbers intimately and you're looking after them as well. So the goal of you and your business is to generate cash. So make sure that you're keeping track of everything. You know what's coming in, but also what's going out and when. Get an accountant. If you are not an accountant, get an accountant. And if you've got the capital, I'd say get a bookkeeper as well. I didn't, and I didn't do it straight away, and I should have, because it's something that I didn't do. And then all of a sudden there was so much paperwork to deal with.
And what's the difference between bookkeeper and an accountant?
So a bookkeeper will input your expenses. So you send like the receipts and the invoices, and they keep like a register up to date.
I need one.
Yeah, just do it. Like, go and find a freelancer. They're like €500 a year. It's totally worth it. And then our accountant, who, make sure you find a clever one, a curious one, and one who basically is not afraid to tell you what you're supposed to be doing, so that he can do his job or she can do her job. So the first accountant that we got, he actually ended up getting the first company that I started to run the space dissolved because he didn't keep up with what he was supposed to be doing. And he said, we'd meet up every week and I'd say, okay, what do you need from me? And he'd say, no, it's okay. It's okay. And then all of a sudden I got a notice saying this company is about to be dissolved. And I called him up and I said, what is happening? And he said, oh yeah, well, you didn't give me the names of the directors. And I was like, I asked you every single week, what do you need? I was like, this is new for me. I've never done this before with an accountant. So, the next one that we got is amazing. He is, just fantastic. We pay him a bit more, but it's totally worth it. He said, so this is a really good question to ask your accountant before you hire them, especially if they're a bit more on the expensive side, is, so when I said to Ben, your services are not cheap, he said to me, you can pay me out of the money I save you on your tax. And I was like, you're hired. So it's results. Make sure everybody is results oriented that you hire.
That's, I'm writing it down because I think it's incredibly important, and I can relate so much to what you're saying because I already got in trouble for a couple of times because of my accountant. So my first accountant disappeared, and because I'm new to the country and I'm also new to entrepreneurship, I, of course, didn't know how everything works. And then you have to pay VAT every quarter. So basically, I missed 2 quarters, and then I got the fine of I think €600.
Yeah.
And then my second accountant, he was just pissed off with me not doing certain things, but I just didn't know. Like you said, like I was asking you every month what I need to do. Yeah. But in my case, once he really gave out to me saying that I'm irresponsible. I just really. Which was a little bit, I felt like a 3 years old child who needs to stay in the corner. But I just basically didn't know, that I have to do certain things. And he thought it's just I'm responsible, but I just didn't know. Yeah, so it's very important to have an accountant who you will not go and ask every time what you need, but he will or she will contact you and tell you what they need from you. Yeah. Incredibly important.
Definitely, yeah. And staying on top of them, like asking them, do you have everything you need from me? And then getting it in writing as well.
But in writing, yeah, okay. But so with the first, you basically lost the company because of the accountants.
Yeah, I mean, because of the accountant, but ultimately it was my fault. Like taking full responsibility for everything that happens in your life. I didn't know enough at that time to know that I should be checking certain things. And I probably could have easily researched what do I need to be doing to make sure my accountant's doing their job. But I didn't, there was so much else to do. I didn't think it was that important. But
Yeah, you never think it's important until you get such news.
Yeah.
I just received actually another fine for not submitting the list of my customers, and I was like, what the hell?
Wow, you have to do that.
Yeah, in Belgium you have to do that. But I'm registered elsewhere, so I'm not supposed to do that. But okay, this is a Belgian story, like very complicated, bureaucratic state in that sense. Wanted to note one thing as well. You told us about the importance of knowing your numbers. Everyone talks about it. Yeah, it's like it sounds so logical. But the thing is that what we don't do it. Like, we hear it, it's important to know the numbers. Like, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Just forget and you move on. And recently, I was taking a course on managing finances. And it's actually, I think, for the first time in my life, and I'm 37 or 38, I don't remember anymore. The first time I did the numbers, of incoming and outcoming finances. And for me, it was an incredible revelation, to see where money goes and if there is a deficit or not. So, yeah, my message to anyone who is listening to me, do find a ready table. Because for me, like, I'm so bad with numbers and I hate numbers, and I would probably never do it myself. But I got Excel file with all the formulas. I just put all the numbers there and got the final numbers in the end. I was like, whoa.
I would add to that, know your income and expenses, but also know how much, or work out how much business you need to do, how much you need to sell to break even, and then also to achieve the financial goal that you want a month or per year. And one other really important number is working out your burn rate, which is if all of your business suddenly stopped, how long can you keep going in your business with the money that you've got in the bank right now? So that's something that I've recently, this year, got really to grips with, because we've grown so much and we have to use some buildings to support the new ones. And it's like, okay, how long is this cash going to last us? How long do we have to fill up a new space before it starts affecting everything else, or before it's done?
Yeah. Do you have anyone running those numbers for you now? So it's an accountant basically, or there is someone who is doing that for you?
So it used to be just me and my partner. And then this year we actually hired an operations manager for the first time earlier this year. And he wasn't a very good operations manager, but he was really good with spreadsheets. He was really good with numbers. So we're like, and he was a really cool person. So he was really nice. He was he's a get stuff done person. If you're like, this needs doing, his immediate response is, I'm on it, it's going to be done. And also someone who takes feedback really well. So if you tell him what's wrong, he just takes it on board and says, got it, I'll do better next time. So we wanted to keep him in the company. So we decided to create a financial officer position, even though it was an enormous stretch for our budget. And we worked out the only way that it would work is if he took over the financial management, or like overseeing of everything, and also working and managing our bookkeeper, then that would leave me and my partner free to focus on the operations, and my partner to go and find us more spaces. And that's what happened. So he joined, and we were already in the process of opening 2 more spaces, but in the last month, we've just opened a new one that was like a last minute thing.
That's very interesting, because when you build your business, sometimes you don't even realize what kind of specialists you need and what kind of, titles of positions actually out there to match your needs, so to say.
Yes.
So, like bookkeeper, accountant, financial officer, operations. I didn't even know it existed like maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, some people have built entire careers out of just being operations experts. But yeah, all of the titles and positions that you need in the organization chart, I would say to everybody, do an organization chart, even if it's just you by yourself. But if you want to grow, and then you can have some clarity about all the positions that you personally need to fulfill, while it's just you. And then as you add people in, the other positions that they also need to fulfill. So as you're growing, we've got a saying in English where we say people need to wear different hats. So one person might wear like 2 or 3 hats, to do different job. And then as you get the resources and you grow a bit more, they can take their hat off and give it to somebody else. But at the same time, don't spend your money on extra people if you don't have the cash flow or the growth plan to do it either. I recently met a business owner who they just started and they'd hired, so they just opened a cafe and they'd hired a menu consultant. And I was like, what's a menu consultant? And she said, oh, they helped us put together a menu of healthy food that probably people in the area would like to eat. And I was like, well, how did they find that out? And she said, oh, I don't know. And I was like, so basically, you don't know what they're doing or how they're doing it, but you've paid them a lot of money when you don't have any and your business isn't generating any money either. And this cafe owner was like, oh my God, I've just made a massive mistake. I was like, man, look after your money, look after your budget. It's like sending your children off to grow at school, and they come back with more knowledge that then can help everybody. But yeah, in this case, it's sending your money out, but make sure it's coming back with more money. You know, don't have any expenses that don't contribute to you either getting new customers or keeping the customers you've got. Everything else just cut away. You know, I'd say you said an expert on scaling business, but really it's lean scaling. Like when people start telling me about spending money on, extravagances, like designers, branding, having branding sessions with people when they're just starting out. And I'm like, whose money are you spending? Try and think about how that can serve you better. You can always get to the next level without all of that. You'd be better off spending your money on a coach, someone who can actually help you on yourself or your business grow and strategize. And that's it, basically. That's the only thing I would say spending your money on, or an expert that you literally are not qualified to do that role, like an accountant.
And when you were growing your business, so when you didn't have much knowledge of actually how to grow it, did you use the services of business coaches?
I had a mentor, my first ever mentor. I actually invited her organization. So she used to run events for young entrepreneurs, like teenagers. And she was looking for venues, and I reached out and said, yeah, come and have a look at our space. And we just really got on, and she's a very successful businesswoman. She owns a lot of care homes, residential homes for old people.
Oh, yeah.
And she's multimillionaire. And we just really hit it off. I didn't know this at the time when I first met her, actually. And I said, why did you choose to come and do your event and work with me? And she said, it's because you were really open, and anything I asked you, you'd say yes, or how can I do that? And then we ended up, but spending a lot of time together, and she just introduced me to the concept of, spending time thinking about things. Asking yourself questions about your business, always asking, what am I not seeing? How can I do better? Also, like personal development stuff as well. It was really cool. It was life-changing for me. I went from being really anxious and scared about asking people to pay me, after working my ass off basically every single day, as well as the years building this.
Welcome to my world.
People wouldn't pay me their fee, and I'd be so scared about bothering them and be like, oh, you didn't pay your rent this month. And she taught me about the value of fair exchange and how important it is to ask for what you deserve because you've given some value to somebody. No. So it totally changed for me, and it changed the way I ask people to pay me as well. So instead of being embarrassed or ashamed about asking them for money, I would ask them, how important is this to you? This is the place where you grow your own business, where you create your own money. So it's important to take care of that first. So if you don't pay me, then you don't have a space to grow your own money, grow your own business. And that I'd say for like you or any other coaches out there, people don't want to pay you, say, ask them to think about, what does it mean to not have this? What's the value in this? And a lot of the time, if you point out to people, this is actually helping you fulfill some very basic human needs. It's helping you to accumulate more resources, grow money, maybe even status and networks. And once you point out those things, it triggers something inside your primal brain that makes a decision to do it.
Yeah, it's interesting you're talking about it now, because recently I had quite a financial challenge to go through, because I was shifting from corporate world to entrepreneurship, and all of a sudden all those crazy things started happening, like huge bills coming. My tenant stopped paying her rent.
Oh, I remember you saying.
Yeah. And I was, the first question, as you said, like always asking yourself, why certain things happen in my life, and I worked with a coach and psychologist as well to understand why is that, because I gave her 9 months actually to recover from her divorce. And this is the first thing that my psychologist said, that you are becoming the victim, allowing another person to have, let's say, a good life at your expense. So the first thing you need to learn is, it's like with, how do you call it? Like the oxygen mask on the airplane, that to build business and help others to thrive, you first need to secure yourself. And my understanding of help was a little bit distorted in that sense. So it was like, okay, I will sacrifice my own financial state for someone who is living in my apartment, no problem, not paying the rent, and feeling okay about that. So once I realized that, I shifted from being a savior, because especially we women, this is how we are taught when we are little girls, that we need to help others, we need to support others, that we need to be empathic, and so on and so forth. So I was first taking care about someone else rather than taking care of me. But once I switched it, I took another position, a different position, and all of a sudden she started paying.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, it was a relief. It was a relief.
I think that's important to take on board with everything, not just like taking care of yourself financially. Like if anybody out there's got children, raising children and growing a business is no small feat in itself. And I used to never want to let my children watch TV, and sometimes I'm exhausted. So I'm like, they can watch TV for half an hour while Mommy has a bit of a half an hour sit down or just to finish something off. So yeah, it's like
care of yourself.
And it looks different for everybody in any different situation as well. So it's like, I think asking yourself, okay, is this really looking after myself so that everybody is taken care of, but me primarily? But yeah, what you said about somebody else having a nice life at your expense, I think a lot of people, myself included, need to remind ourselves a lot.
Yeah, especially us women. Yeah, I agree. Victoria, we have around 5 minutes left. Is there any particular message you want to leave to women who are dreaming about having their own business, but they're a little bit scared of switching maybe from the corporate, waiting for, being scared of what the ways for them ahead? What would you recommend?
I would recommend, I know people have heard this, but just starting. You don't have to blow up your life and change everything to start a new business. You can use what you have, what you know right now, and start to take steps towards it. So that means waking up 30 or 60 minutes before you usually do to go to your job, and doing it just a little bit every day, because a little bit every day adds up to a lot.
What would you say to those women because I get this question quite often, that they get an idea of what they want to do of a business. And then the next question appears, should I quit my job and just dedicate all my time to new business? Or should I take my time?
How bad do you want it? I think that's the answer to that. How bad do you want it? And how much will your life be affected by you quitting your job to do it? You know, do you have the resources to quit your job and work full time on something? You know, if you got enough money to live off for 3 to 6 months so that you can fully focus on building something.
But do you think 3-6 months could be actually, and well, of course, it's a difficult question because it depends on business, you know. But I have the feeling that people think that they can start generating really good revenue within 3 months or even 6 months, which is usually absolutely not the case.
No, I'd say like 2 years, probably.
Minimum.
Yeah. 2 years before you can probably replace what you're earning in your corporate job or your job for somebody else.
Yeah. So I really want to hear it from you as well, because
I take a very small salary and everything gets reinvested back into my company. So my partner and I have never taken dividends. We've literally used every single penny that we don't use to live to building this company.
Investing, reinvesting,
yeah.
in the business.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
We do. We spend quite a lot of money on coaching and mentoring now over the last couple of years, but it's a business expense. So we benefit from it, but also the business does as well, and the business pays for it. So
definitely. Okay, I will ask one last question. You're probably not really prepared for it, but maybe something will pop up in your mind. Can you name 1 or 2 books that really impacted you, both as a personality and as a business person?
Yes. So I've just read one recently, actually, which had a really big impact on me. And it's kind of tied to your previous question about somebody quitting their job or doing it as a part-time. So it's Grant Cardone's 10X. And it's about basically, if you want to grow something that's really successful, you're going to have to do 10 times the amount of work that you think you're going to have to do.
What is the title again?
10X.
10X.
Yeah.
10X. It's like TEDx, but 10X.
Yeah, the number 10.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you make 10 sales calls a week, you need to be making 100 sales calls a week. You know, it's literally like 10xing every single one of your efforts. You know, if you're generating, if you write 12 blog posts a year, start doing 120 blog posts a year. So, yeah, that one recently, because we've had some team members that are not really performing. And I think I'm a good person to work with. You know, I spend a lot of time encouraging people, but also making sure that they understand what needs to be done and, more importantly, how to do it. So give them the freedom and agency to do things their own way. But this is the goal. These are the action steps that we need to take. And still not getting results from people. And then I listened to 10X just recently, the last couple of weeks. And I've had the first meeting with my team this week since listening to the book. And I left the meeting. I was like, some people need to go. They're just not the right attitude. It's not about abilities at this stage. It's having a can do, I'm not a victim mentality. You know, life happens for us and because of us, not to us. So, you know, I don't want to hear excuses. I just want to hear it's done, or it's not done and I'm stuck because, can you help me?
Yeah. No, it's, well, especially for, small businesses, startups, let's say, it's crucial for business that, people perform. I know one startup where they hired a very, very expensive salesperson, and she didn't deliver, but they just didn't dare to fire her. And yeah, they lost so many opportunities basically because of her. And it's it's important to take this step sometimes.
It's really difficult though, as most human beings care how other people think and how the decisions that we make affect their lives. But when you've grown a business, you have to almost think of that as a person as well. And everybody that works in that business is like a nanny. And, you know, you wouldn't have a nanny looking after your child that beat them or didn't feed them. You know, you'd get rid of them immediately. And it's the same thing. You know, that person is not serving the business. You know, the business is a baby. It's a baby or a child or a teenager. Hopefully it will become an old person. But you know, people don't live beyond the level of care that they get. And it's exactly the same for a business.
Absolutely. Absolutely agree. Victoria, thank you so much for all your shared experience.
Oh, you did a second book.
So, there's a second book.
Yeah. The second book is A New Earth.
New F.
A New Earth.
A New Earth. Eckhart Tolle.
Yes. So I think it's not being attached to anything that we attach our identity to. I think helps with any kind of growth, personal growth. When I first read it, I felt like I was having an existential crisis. So I was like, I want goals and things in my life, but I shouldn't want them as well. And listening to that one made me really understand that it's okay to want stuff for yourself and goals and financial success, but just don't let that be your identity. You know, if you don't get it, it's not going to affect who you are.
I probably read 1/3 of it, and yeah, it was not an easy read. I think I have to come back to it. And
actually, him and Oprah Winfrey have got a podcast.
Yeah,
and they go through each chapter every podcast episode and talk about it. So it's a lot more digestible, and people call in with questions that when I was listening to it, I was like, oh yeah, I was just thinking that question as well. So
is it on YouTube or it's on
I listened to it on the podcast app, but I think it's on all platforms.
Podcast app. Do you know the name?
I think it might be.
Can be. There is SoundCloud.
Podcasts. Maybe it's the iPhone one.
Okay, doesn't matter.
It's an Oprah Winfrey podcast.
I have seen, by the way, that Eckhart Tolle has released a course.
Oh, really?
I don't know if you were targeted by it. No, I was really targeted. I didn't subscribe because I follow already quite some courses, and I was like, okay, Anna, refrain. You can't follow.
Yeah, same. My inbox is just full of things that I've subscribed to, and then I haven't quite got around to doing it yet.
Yeah. So focus is important. But yeah, he has a course now. So if anyone is interested, you can try. I was surprised actually because it was not extremely expensive for a person like him. I think it was 260 euro maybe. Don't remember exactly, but definitely worth it, I suppose. Okay, Victoria, it was great to see you. It was great to hear you and learn from your experience. Absolutely valuable. And I wish you 10x growth.
Thank you, Anna.